Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Cyan of Perceive Grace, both on here and Instagram. Today I'm going to be setting up my summer TBR spread in my reading journal. The elements I'm pulling for this theme are all from Canva Pro. I got the images from Canva Pro, I got the vector girls and the dried flowers from Canva Pro, and my scripts from Canva Pro, and then the star rating stickers are from Saucy Stickers Co. And the scrapbook paper options I'm using today are from Joann's. And I already printed and cut the book covers you see on the left hand side. So let's go ahead and get started. As always, I'm using my B5 size reading journal or bullet journal from Archer & Olive. And I am just so excited to share this TBR with you. And just know that, as always, a TBR is more of a guide than like a strict plan, so to speak. I am definitely a mood reader, but I like to mood read within a plan so I don't feel like lost or overwhelmed by all of the options out there. I like to narrow down what I think I'm going to be interested in. I'm able to mood read within that selection, and I feel like I know my reading taste a lot by now. And then of course, with new releases coming out, I just also wanted to not feel overwhelmed with the ones that are all out there, and I wanted to narrow down the ones that I'm most excited for because I can't read them all, I can't buy them all, and so kind of narrowing down what is going to work best for me is super helpful. And then also I of course have books on my physical TBR that have been sitting on my shelf for over a year, and maybe last summer I wanted to get to them and then did not. So kind of evaluating what is actually realistic for me to read this summer, what is still on par with my reading taste, kind of doing all of that narrowing down. A couple of the books might look familiar because they're also on my June TBR, but I obviously have July and August in mind as well with these selections. But enjoy this segment of the video. I will see you again in the voiceover when I go over my TBR. Later on, I'm going to go through book by book, so stay tuned. In no particular order, first we have Meeting Her Match by Jen Turano. This is the third book in the Matchmaker series. It's also the final book. I have really enjoyed this series so far. The first two books are both a 5 stars for me. The first book is definitely more of a summer read, and the second one is more of a fall or winter read. To Spark a Match was actually in my top 5 favorite books of 2023. I highly recommend To Spark a Match. The romance in there is incredible, and I just loved it overall. It also has bookish vibes. Meeting Her Match, I expect no less from this book. It releases mid-July, I believe, and my copy actually arrived after I I filmed this today on Thursday, June 20th. Many thanks to the publisher. Moving on to The Grand Sophie by Georgette Heyer. Georgette Heyer wrote in the 1960s. She has a very big backlist, a lot of which is Regency romance or just Regency. And I have been trying to read her books. I love these source books, Casablanca editions. I talked about this book in my June TBR video, but I plan to get to this in June, hopefully. This next one is Trouble is Brewing by Vicki Delaney. This is an upcoming release in July. It releases July 23rd. It is the fifth and what I believe final book in the AT by the Sea mystery series, which is a cozy mystery series revolving around a head pastry chef in a tea room. She operates her own tea room and it's connected to her grandmother's bed and breakfast, which is Victorian style, and it's all set in Cape Cod. So all of it together just creates the coziest, most delicious atmosphere, and the friend group is really cute. And I've been loving the subtle workplace romance subplot that's in view, and I think this book will give us a little bit more of that, I hope. Each book towards the very end has been hinting at a progression towards it, more and more declaration is involved. But overall, I'm very much looking forward to this. Cozy mysteries are not my go-to genre. I'm intrigued by them. I want to read more of them, but this one has definitely captured my heart and my interest, and I highly recommend it as a summer go-to. And I read all four of the first books last summer in one summer, and I gave them all each at least 4 stars. So I definitely recommend, and I'm very excited for this. This next one is another book that would complete a interconnected series for me, The Courteous Cad by Catherine Palmer. This is actually the third book in the Miss Pickworth series. It is from 2006, the whole series, but Tyndale recently reissued these beautiful covers over the last couple of years, and I've talked about the very first book a lot in my May reading wrap-up. I gave that 5 stars. I gave the second book 3.5 stars. I actually read that out of order, so I read it this time last year. I talked about how and why I did that as well. But this is the third and final book. It's actually my favorite cover. It looks a little thicker than the other 2 books as well. And the tagline for it is, "He's a cad of the worst sort. She has vowed never to marry. Who would have guessed they could be the match of the season?" So to me, it sounds like it's going to be the most entertaining, but this is Christian Regency romance, so Christianity and faith themes are very actually heavy. There's a heavy amount of that in the series, and I think it's been done really well so far. Next up is A Novel Proposal by Denise Hunter. This has been on my radar for a while, as well as has this author. I actually wanted to read this book last summer and just did not get to it. I've heard this book compared to Beach Read as a clean version, and I think that's because it's about a novelist who needs to boost her sales, and so she's switching the genres that she's writing or something like that. And then there's a hiccup where well, she's never been in love, so how can she write a contemporary romance? And it obviously takes place at a beach setting, so it just sounds like I can understand why people compare it to the premise of Beach Read or whatever, but I don't know if there's Christian themes as well, but I'm looking forward to this, and I have heard great things. This one is The Secret to Happiness by Suzanne Woods Fisher. I read the first book in this Cape Cod Creamery series, The Sweet Life, last summer, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars. And the third book actually recently came out this past May called Love on a Whim, but I'm not quite ready for it yet, so I'll just read this one this summer. And the whole series is described as being a clean contemporary romance series set in small town Cape Cod. And I actually have no idea what the connection between the first book, the second book, and the third book is. I don't know if it's just that they're all in Cape Cod and new characters are coming into view. I kind of hope that's the case, but the first book was very hard-hitting with emotions. There's some serious topics, but I thought it was done really well and still had a lighthearted feel to it, where you felt like these people were still on vacation and you were, whatever. So I think the author did a good job of balancing the hard topics with, oh, this is still a summer contemporary romance set in Cape Cod. The romance was very subtle, but I liked it. I know almost nothing about this next one, Lucy Loves Him Not by Rebecca Jo Jackson. I have to say, it was a total cover buy. I saw Tawny's Bookshelf post about it on Instagram and I immediately bought it. The cover makes me think of July. Any cover that's gonna have a carnival on it is gonna make me think of July. It's the second book in the Sweet River series. I looked into the first book on Amazon, but it did not interest me, so I thought I'll just go for reading the second book without having read the first. It looks like it takes place in summer in Texas, and there's a summer festival in view, and I think the romance is centered around a workplace rivals to more, which always sounds really interesting to me. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put this on my July TBR, and let's hope it's really good. These next two appeared on my Instagram feed one day and I was immediately intrigued. I'd never heard of the author before or the series. It's marketed as a new adult or a young adult dystopian fantasy, clean as well. And I asked the author if there was any magic in this because I always want to read non-magical when I read fantasy. I've mentioned that on my account before. And she told me, yes, there's no magic. It is dystopian, so it's more of like a sci-fi thing. And it just sounds really intriguing. The covers, I have to say, they are so beautiful. The Silver Lies is already out. Golden Secrets comes out in August, so I want to read the first book in July, get to the second one in August. This one is Behind the Light of Goloduin. I don't know how to pronounce it. There is a glossary on the inside telling me how to pronounce this, but I was influenced to buy this by my friend Jenny of jenny.reads on Instagram. She posted about the entire series and the covers just looked so beautiful, and I thought I'm gonna buy the first one, see if I like it, and then I'll buy the rest of the series. And I believe it's a Regency romance. I don't know if it takes place over the summer, but the cover, obviously with the lighthouse and the water, makes me think of that. And I've read 2 other books by Deborah M. Hathaway and I liked both of them. So she's an author I'm just kind of trying to make my way through. And let me know if you've read this because it sounds and looks really good. Next up, I have What You Wish For by Catherine Center. I've read Catherine Center's more recent releases. I've read The Bodyguard and I've read Hello Stranger. I thought they were okay. I thought they were kind of trying to do too much, so I am not going to read her new book, The Rom-Commers, probably, but I wanted to check out her backlist, and because I've heard that they're more serious and have more depth and maybe just more sad. Not that I want that, but I'm curious about her backlist, so we'll start with this one, see how it goes. Let me know if you've read it, and I hope I like it. This one is A Game of Hearts by Joanna Barker. It's the first book in the Cartwells series, and I read the second book first earlier this month in June, To Charm a Lady. So I'll be reading these out of order. The author said that was fine, and honestly, after reading the second book, I think at the end of the day, the second one is going to remain my favorite. But I've heard great things about the first one, and Joanna has become an author I need to catch up on because I was blown away by To Charm a Lady. I'll talk more about it in my June reading wrap up, but this one looks just as good in general. I was gifted it by my friend Jenny of jenny.reads on Instagram, and I feel bad for not having read it sooner because I ended up loving Joanna so much, but I'll get to that one in July. And here lies another book I wanted to get to last summer and just simply did not. This is Summer House Party. It is book 4 of 19 in the Timeless Regency collection, which just is like a series of anthologies of various stories. So there are 3 different stories in this book, and there's An Engagement of Convenience by Regina Scott, A Perfect Match by Donna Hatch, and The Pauper's House Party by Sarah M. Eden. Sarah is the only author of the 3 that I am familiar with. And of course, all of these are clean and wholesome, and the cover is absolutely stunning. I do not know why I haven't picked this up. It'll be a really good palette cleanser in the upcoming months, and I hope I enjoy it. Let me know if you've read it. This one is another one of my highly anticipated releases for 2024. This is White Rose Rising. It is book 2 in the Land series, and I read Emerald of the Sea last summer, I believe in August. I gave it 5 shining stars, and honestly, this is the perfect time to read the first book, Emerald of the Sea, if you have not read it, because they both feel like summer just because of the high seas and the pirate part of it, whatever. So definitely, I highly encourage you, if you have not read the first book before the second book comes out, then get the second book in the summer as well. The first book ended on the most amazing cliffhanger. I loved it. I'm totally fine with cliffhangers, and I read it to an awesome playlist. I remember that book so clearly in my head almost a year later. I have a review post of it, of course, on my Instagram from last August, and White Rose Rising releases August 30th, and I just cannot wait. I don't think I need to do a reread of Emerald of the Sea, like I said, because I can actually very much remember everything that happened. But you have to read the first book. This is a non-negotiable. You have to read the first book at the very least if you plan on reading the second book. But this is YA for sure. On Amazon, the reading age is listed as 12 to 18 years, and I would agree with that. I think I would let somebody in that age range read this. I thought it was fine on that front, and I don't remember there being any language. Of course there's violence because there's pirates and like war at sea, but nothing crossing a line. And then romance, of course, was clean. There were actually 2 romances because there's like a colliding timeline. That's not a spoiler, but I highly recommend this. Like I said, it's YA fantasy romance, and it is non-magical, of course. Any fantasy I ever talk about, it's gonna be non-magical just because those are my standards, but I'm so excited for this. This is The Summer of Yes by Courtney Walsh, another upcoming release that I'm very excited for. It releases July 2nd, so super soon. And I read 2 books by Courtney Walsh, and I was impressed, very impressed by both of them. It was The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley, and then I read one of her independently published books, a part of the Sweater Weather series last fall. I forget what the name of it was, but I gave both of those books, I believe, 5 stars. And this one to me looks like it's more of a women's fiction, like The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley is, but the Isadora book had romance in it, so I think this is still gonna have some romance in it too, but it might be more of like a side or subplot. That's what I get from this. But let me know if you've read it, because I know a few people have read arcs on NetGalley and stuff of it. I just wanted to just wait until it came out and definitely read it over the summer. But the little tagline of the summary says, "Sometimes you're so busy writing other people's stories that you lose the plot of your own." And I think it follows 2 women. It says that Kelsey and Georgina couldn't be more opposite. So we have just, I guess, 2 friends that decide to get a little bit more out of life, and there's a question of like, they ask themselves, what if I said yes to everything I've always said no to? So it also seems like there's definitely going to be some matchmaking, and yeah, at the bottom of the summary it does say that it does mention romance. So anyway, I have very high expectations for this. I've heard good things about it. The cover is beautiful, clean, contemporary, but this should be really good. Another new release or upcoming release, The Lady Glass by Annika R. Walker. This is set to release July 9th. I absolutely love this cover. It is described as being an enchanted Regency romance. I believe it's a Cinderella retelling. That's probably pretty obvious. I asked the author like if there was any magic in this, because we know Cinderella, the story, definitely has magic in it. And I read one other book by this author almost 2 years ago, and like a year and a half ago. It was called The Dreaming Beauty, which was also described as being an enchanted Regency romance, and I liked that book. I think I gave it 4 or 4.5 stars. The cover of that is also beautiful. I still own it, and the only reason I was hesitant to pick up this is because even though I really liked that other book, which I don't think is connected with this, it had like some superstition in it. Like not superstition with the main characters, but there were side characters who were like just really superstitious, and I didn't like that. But because they were side characters, and because towards the end it was pretty obvious that no one in the book took that seriously, I felt okay. So I don't know, it doesn't look like this is going to be available on KU, so I might just have to get it, or I might wait to see what other people say. But I'm still very much looking forward to this, and the author has beautiful writing and the cover is beautiful. So yeah, maybe I'll just wait to see what other people say about this before picking it up, but it's still very much on my radar, and I know the Regency aspect is absolutely going to deliver. This one is going to look familiar if you watched my June TBR video, but this is just Act Natural by Jenny Carrick. It is the start of a series or a part of another series. I don't know, something like that. But I said in that video as well that I don't know much about this book or much about this author. It does say it's a fake dating, small town romantic comedy, and that sounds cute. And the cover, honestly, I have to say, I was drawn in by the cover. I really like the cover and like the colors in it and whatnot. The tagline for it says, "I started this pretend romance to save face, not to lose my heart." That sounds good, and the setting sounds good. Having a camping romance on my summer TBR just feels right to me. Let me know if you've read this author. She has quite a decent amount of books on her backlist. I think she only writes contemporary rom-coms, and their covers are always really cute. But it releases next week. I'm doing this voiceover. Oh, it says it released on June 18th, but I actually think it releases, maybe it did release this past week. Maybe it was bumped up, because I think originally I put another date in my June TBR video of like June 25th or something, but on Amazon it does look like it's now available on KU, and it also looks like the paperback is available. So anyway, it looks like it's out now, but either way it was a June release. But let me know if you're familiar with this author. I really, really hope I like this. This is another book I talked about on my June TBR. This is Beachy Keen by Casey Stockton. At the point of me doing this voiceover, this book did recently release. I think the official release date was June 19th. This is a part of a multi-author series called Falling for Summer. To be honest, I wasn't really interested in the other books. I read all the synopses and I looked at all the authors and how familiar I was with them or not, and this one just seemed the most interesting to me. And also I love Casey Stockton's books. Honestly, even when I don't really love her characters or don't really love something else, I still always enjoy her writing. I talked about this in the TBR video, but the tagline for this is, "He has it all except the one thing money can't buy, her heart." So I think this is a billionaire romance, and there's like a secret crush involved, and all of this takes place on like a small island with a group of friends across the entire series. So if you want a multi-author summer rom-com series, check out Falling for Summer, like everything in the book or everything in the series, and I'll probably be getting to this really soon too. This one is A Summer of Dandelions by Whitney Amazine. I have to admit, this was a very last minute addition to my summer TBR. I think right as I was putting together the book covers on Canva to format them, to then print them out, whatever, as book cover stickers with my Cricut maker, I saw this on Instagram and I fell in love with the cover. I discovered that it is clean and it looks beautiful. It is the first book in a new series by this author called Meadow Hills. And yeah, I'm pretty positive. Yeah, on Instagram it's tagged with the clean and wholesome romance tag. That's another thing, everyone. Like, if you're looking for clean and wholesome romances, Amazon does have a clean and wholesome romance books tag. So you can always kind of use those as keywords or tags and find books that way. I do that. But this sounds really good. I didn't read, to be honest, I didn't read too much about the summary. This was definitely more of a cover selection. I haven't bought it yet. It released in May. It's available on KU, so I might read it on KU first, just because this is an extremely new to me author, and this was such an impulsive decision to put it on my radar, but I did not buy it yet. I think I'm going to read it on KU at some point in July or August, and then if I like it enough, I'll get the physical copy. But like I said, it is available. The cover's beautiful. I followed the author on Instagram. This hopefully will be a really good read. Last but certainly not least, we have Wedding at Sea by Melissa Tagg. This is the third and final book in the Amir Harbor trilogy. This is a contemporary Christian romance mystery trilogy. I read Autumn by the Sea last fall. I gave it 4.5 stars. I do have a video on my channel of me reviewing it and creating the book review journal spread if you want to check that out. It was so close to being a 5 stars for me. I absolutely loved it. A Seaside Wonder is the second book. I read that either December or January, and I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't as good as the first book in my opinion, but it was a close second. And then Wedding at Sea, from everybody who's read this trilogy, I have heard that it is the best one, certainly, and that it just really ends the trilogy very nicely. So that is very great to hear. There's been a really, really interesting and intriguing underlying mystery throughout the entire trilogy so far, and to know that it's going to wrap up so satisfyingly in this book, I actually can't wait. I've read the entire series so far on KU, so I actually don't own the first 2 books, even though I loved them. And so I think after I read this one, I'll buy all 3 and read this one on KU first. But let me know if you've read it, and I'm excited.
what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.